Hi everyone, I'm Tom and it's time to talk about the best games of 2021. And this is the 5th annual top 10, so I don't know why that makes it more special, but it does. Let's talk about things. So, this was originally going to be a massive video. It's been segmented up a little bit, and yeah, maybe I won't talk about Get Back for like 2 hours. I told you I'd talk about board games, but games that I haven't had, but I think would be contenders if they had made it here in time. Snappy title. Solomon Kane, Stardew Valley, Merchants of the Dark Road, Sword and Sorcery, Ancient Chronicles, Ultimate Railroads, Mind MGMT, Maracaibo, The Uprising, World of Warcraft, Wrath of the Lich King, Wonderbook, Yummy Monster Tummy, which I played a predecessor of, and yeah, it's a great idea. And Seize the Bean, which I know, backers, you have, and you have my eternal jealousy as well, but it'll be making it here eventually. It'll probably be on the 2022 list at this point, because yeah, if it lives up to my memories, which may have just exceeded all expectations at this point, then yeah, it would be up there for sure. Games that are here, but I don't think I've played enough to consider them for the list. These should be just top 10s on their own. I should have just spun this really out, shouldn't I? Magnate, Watch, The Adventures of Robin Hood, Cartographers Heroes, Free Ride, Pachacuna, Crescent City Cargo, Chronicles of Drunagor, Valeria Card Kingdom's Darksworn, Paladins of the West Kingdom, City of Crowns, Boon Lake, Ark Nova, and Brian Boru, and Tabanusi and Origins First Builders, which arrived like just after I wrote that list. And also Kanban EV is exempt from this list. I know, it's absolutely fantastic. Kanban is one of my favourite games ever. Kanban EV is an absolutely beautiful new presentation. It's got a great new solo mode. It's got a lovely turbocharged mini expansion to it as well. It's absolutely fantastic. It would probably be one if I let it be, but I am just giving space to more brand new things. But hey, check out all the videos that I did for Kanban and EV over the course of the channel. Check it out there. It's an absolutely fantastic game. That's just some preliminary stuff to say, you know, if you're thinking, where's this game that I love? And it's one of those, that's why it's not on here yet. If it's a Kickstarter I covered and you're thinking, well, he said this Kickstarter was great and it's not on his best games list, only doing games that I've got a final version of and that I have played and loved this year. Of which there are many. And in case there are any references to it that I haven't found, this was originally a top 20 and it's been cut up. It was really long. So yeah, it's been cut up and we'll do the other ones another time. And I'll talk about expansions maybe in that one. This is just full final released games out of the many that I've played on this channel. I normally make playthroughs. There are like, it's coming up to 600 on this channel. I think maybe I've done 100 this year. I didn't count. I didn't know I was going to say that. But yes, onto the list. I'll stop stalling. In no particular order, apart from the fact that I've carved these out and these are the 10 best ones. Super Skill Pinball 4K. Who would have thought that pinball could be translated into a roll and write game and still feel like pinball? I really love pinball kind of as a concept and a childhood memory, I guess, but this year, kind of through some arcades and some video games as well, got quite into certain pinball things. Shout out for Adam's Family table fans. But yes, Super Skill Pinball, I had been really excited for back in 2020. I know it might have been on some people's 2020 lists, but it didn't make it into the UK for ages and ages. Definitely a 2021 game. I decide which years things came out. But yes, this is a roll and write game. You have a little half pinball that is moving around your board. There are 4 different tables included, so you have to use one of the 2 numbers that you roll to use on your pinball. It has to fall through the table. It will end up on flippers that will kind of be your time is running out element of it. You can only fill in so many spaces on your flippers and then go back up into the table. Flipping from one flipper, you can only go to certain sections and from the other to other sections as well, so that's going to play into your decision of where you want to go. And there are 4 tables in there that play massively differently. You can play a couple print and play if you just want to give it a go. And there's a Christmas one that I just did a live video for that, again, they've all got these different elements. You can see kind of how drop targets and bumpers and spinners work in the base rules, and they are either similar in other tables or adapted in different ways. But there's like a Dragon Slayer one where you learn magic spells to cast as you go through and level up. There is a disco one where you can go into disco fever and rack up massive points. The Christmas one, which isn't part of that box, but you are going on this reindeer thing through adding up the rolls and splitting them however you like to try and fill in as many reindeer as you like. On the downside, it can be a little long, and if you're playing multiplayer, you could, if you get unlucky or too risky, there's nudging and stuff where you can, it's got some push your luck elements to it. If you don't quite get the roll you want, but you've got skill shots and magic spells in some of them that you can offset that with. But yeah, you can get really unlucky, and then other people are playing it for ages, or in the case of all multiplayer games, it tends to be me, where I'm kind of dragging it out and just enjoying pinball, really. But yeah, it can go on longer for one or more people than the rest of them. But I would say that I've played a lot of it solo, and so there's no problem there. And yeah, I absolutely love it. There is another standalone expansion that came out around Essen time this year. Yeah, I'm really jealous of the people that got to play that. It's 4 more tables. I imagine, the core is the same, but the tables are all new and different and exciting. And just announced, I think maybe even last night, designer Jeff Engelstein, by the way, I haven't said anything about publishers and designers, announced there is a Star Trek one coming. So great. If you are into your roll and rights, or into pinball, or if you are into good games, end every entry like this. If you are into good games, check out Super Skill Pinball. Put that on the box. Messina 1347 by Vladimir Succi and Raul Fernandez Aparicio is a game where we play as rich families that want to help people that are affected by plague. So much of this game is based around that theme. Ships are coming in every round. They are bringing plague with them. We spread these cubes out according to a nifty little wheel, and that determines the places that are going to be most affected. If you go to those places to take actions, you're going to have to do something to combat the plague. You're going to have to use some fire tokens to take out these things, or you're going to take rat tokens that will punish you at the end of the game. There's a really cool mechanism of selecting your space. You have to move your workers. There's this hex grid. You can go to adjacent ones for free, but you have to pay to move over things, and once somebody's chosen one, that's kind of a worker placement spot, and that's out of action for this round, but you can still move through it. So it's not just about what you want to do this round, it's about planning what you want to do over multiple rounds and what other people might do and which order you need to do the things in. There's some engine building. The things you can construct throughout the game can reward you with things every round. There is training the people that you manage to rescue from Messina. They will come into your private board and you will get to activate them for various benefits at different times. There's an advanced mode to the game where everyone gets variable scoring and variable player boards for these benefits as you're moving your overseer and activating all these people. It's snappy, it's thinky, it all comes together beautifully, and yeah, this is a co-design this time with Raul Fernandez Aparicio, but another hit for Vladimir Succi and Delicious Games, following on from things like Underwater Cities, Provocap at Regni, just hit after hit after hit. Fantastic. Hadrian's Wall, designed by Bobby Hill and published by Garfield Games, is a great big roll and write game. I know it's flip and fill, really, it's with cards, but it's a wider genre. Let's not get into this. Every round we will flip a card and it will tell everyone the same things that they get, the people and resources that will help them fill in spaces on their 2 great big sheets, and you will end up with soldiers, builders, citizens to fill in various spaces. It will tell you where they can go. Early on you will start small, just crossing off a space at a time for spending a thing, but they will inevitably lead to chain reactions, to beautiful combos, as in the best roll and writes that do tend to be these smaller, snappy experiences. Hadrian's Wall kind of turns everything up as far as it will go. It is this hour-long, great big, fantastic game with that snappy, combo-ridden feel. You are kind of building engines. You are getting income at the start of every round for building specific things. As you progress along these citizen tracks, you'll be able to build certain buildings on your other sheet, and you can go in very different directions as well. You can build things that will give you very set rewards. You can build the gardens that will progress you on loads of tracks at once. You can send people off to work in the temples. It's not a temple, is it? It's something. Or you can go in a more push your luck way. You can go for the markets and you will reveal cards or use other players' cards if you give them a resource to fill in different numbers. You can go and train gladiators, which again requires just flipping a card, and your gladiators might die if you put them into big fights too soon. You might need to train them up first before that, but there's all sorts of risk and reward that goes into that. Do you defend against all the Picts that are going to attack at the end of every round? If they get through loads, you're going to take loads of disdain, which is minus points at the end of the game. So do you defend against that and get loads of valor, or do you take that disdain and then go and bribe the politicians in the public baths to kind of wipe away that disdain so it won't cause you negative points at the end of the game? Loads of different things that you can do, all interlocking beautifully, and on top of the game that worked beautifully solo and beautifully multiplayer as well, it is largely multiplayer solitaire. I say that as a great big compliment, by the way. But as well as all of that working great in the box, there is a solo campaign that has been created and put online that gives you extra kind of tweaks, extra rules, extra goals to go for as you play through a series of games. I've been doing them. I've done 4, I think, so far, that you can see on the channel. But yeah, I've been really enjoying that because Hadrian's Wall is an absolutely fantastic game, and it just keeps giving you these twists, these nudges in different directions to experiment with things, to see how you can achieve the goal, but also see areas of the pages that you might not be doing so much. I'm looking forward to one pushing me into gladiators because I don't tend to do that very much, but it could be really lucrative if you do it properly and get a bit lucky as well. But yeah, Hadrian's Wall, absolutely fantastic. I would love to see more great big roll and write things, as much as I love and still get the small box ones. Really looking forward to ones that kind of take it to the next level. Three Sisters is one that's on the way, I think. That'll be a 2022 one. Back to 2021. Role Player Adventures. This is a great big kind of storybook dice manipulation game. It is a combination of most of the beautiful dice manipulation puzzly gameplay of Role Player, the original completely standalone game. You can see loads of playthroughs I did for that, but this takes it into an ongoing story, into a campaign-based game. We will create characters or use pre-generated ones. You can play Role Player to import them in if you want. Haven't done that yet, but it's cool that you can. So you start brand new characters, you level them up, you gain new abilities, you gain new cards as you progress through this campaign and story. It has systems in place to remember important choices that you made, as well as short-term things for the particular scenario, the particular adventure that you are playing, and things that will persist and very easily let you check if you have done this thing before, because it will take you to different sections of the storybook. We have played through more than 3/4 of the campaign at the moment. It is a great big thing. They are big sessions. I mean, we're playing a lot of it live at the moment, so it takes longer for that, but in our private ones it's probably like 90 minutes, 2 hours per session. There is a lot of content in this, and I can say even at the stage of like adventure 7 or 8 that we're at, there is so much that we could be reading if we had gone down different paths. There is so much that we can see that, yeah, we are skipping past because it is guiding us. The books are getting thicker, but that is all for the kind of butterfly effect of things that would change if we had made different decisions earlier on in the campaign. The story is, yeah, it is funny, it is interesting, it is engaging, and it's all wrapped around that dice manipulation. It works differently for fights and skill checks. That kind of thought that you are putting into Role Player, you know, the cards that you have gained, the abilities on your player board, all that kind of stuff. But now it's cooperative, and we are, you know, talking together about how we are going to achieve these things. How are we going to get the dice that we need? Here's what we've paid for, here's what we've rolled. Now what have we got between us that we can use to get the results that we need? It works so well. It does get to the point where we have got so many cards between us, and this might just be specific to the 2-player version as well, because I know that there are different stats, different amounts of things as you get more players. It does get a bit easy. There is a veteran mode that you can play with that will make things harder for you, so maybe that's worth trying as well. But yeah, you can still fail, and I think that the one kind of the one thing that is a little bit of a sticking point is that the punishment, like failure, is not the end. It is not just, you know, you have all died, restart that scenario and do better this time. You know, it is, I won't say how, but it's part and parcel of it. It's expected, you might say, and so it is not the end of it. It's and a lot of it is not that harsh. There is one specific thing about XP that I think can potentially be really, really, really harsh. But other than that, yeah, just a glowing experience, really enjoying finding out what is going on, remembering the things that we have done, and all kind of things that we would do next time as well. Completely different roads we would want to go down, but also little choices that you think, I'd really like to see what would happen if we had done this. It might not lead to massive repercussions, but yeah, I'd just like to see the flip side of that coin. There is an expansion that adds backstories to the characters that are nice things to kind of inform who they are and maybe the decisions they might make in the main game, and also give you little rewards throughout it. You can play, I think the game would be absolutely fantastic without that expansion still, but having it there, I've really enjoyed finding out our backstories, and there's kind of a thing for 2 players where you have 2 backstories each, so you see more. Yeah, it works really, really beautifully. Role player adventures. Riverside is a roll and write game of touring a lovely scenic Winterland. It's designed by Eilif and Asmund Svensson and new publisher Chili Fox Games. This is a lighter roll and write where we are tour guides. Basically, we have these boats that are going to be snaking along this track. Every round, the boat is going to move a certain amount, and our dice are going to be divided up. There are certain passengers, certain dice they're represented by, that will not come out. It's too cold, so they are going to go up into the heating area. You're going to have to spend heating, a precious resource. You only have so many heating spaces you can tick off throughout the game to coax them out, but they are usually the best dice. You can get very lucky, and it's done through the median of the dice, so you might get it so that you can use pretty decent numbers, but you might end up with a round where it's just all 1s and 2s, and usually bigger is better on the dice unless you cross more spaces off. You will take dice, you will cross off spaces on a certain colour of boat. There is a special die you can use if you spend heating for it that will allow you to boost. You make a total out of a die and the green die if you want to do that. So you are filling in spaces on these boats. You are getting tickets for filling in complete rows. You will get bonuses. Each boat has a completely different bonus that you can use once you have filled in particularly coloured spaces, the pink spaces on the sheets. But what we're getting these tickets for, they're worth some points at the end of the game. But the boat that moves by a different amount every round will be in range, within 3 spaces, of these various attractions that correspond with the colours of the boats on our sheets. You can go and visit a certain space. You choose which attraction you are going to, whether you're going to show them some fishing, some polar bears, some breweries, any of these things. And as you take your passengers there, there is a number printed on each attraction. So you multiply that number by the number of tickets you have on that colour of boat, and that's the points that you're going to score for that attraction. Some places can have a couple or maybe even 3 attractions, and you can score them all if you have gotten the right tickets, the right configuration, and you visited it at the right time. But you're constrained by a key thing that worked so well in Eilif's Avenue a few years ago. You have to score better than you did the last time. And so it seems great. The first opportunity you get to score really, really big in a colour, but you can start to see the kind of the reaction of that later on. I wish I hadn't done that one at that time, because how can I improve on that now? I will score nothing if I try and do that particular one again. It's so much about getting the tickets at the right time, visiting the places at the right time, using your powers to extend your range so you can visit the right attractions at the right time, and having a kind of unknown ending. You can get an inkling for when the game's going to end, when the boat gets near the end of its track, but the way that the dice have been rolled will affect how far the boat moves, so it can be a kind of abrupt surprise ending that you have to be ready for. So there's some pushing your luck involved there, because are you going to go all out on this and know that this is your last turn, so do what you need to do now, and then regret it when you've got one more turn that you now can't really score on because you've scored all of your big things? Or yeah, do you just push your luck and try and get in as many things as possible? It works so well. You can play along in the playthrough that I did for it. The sheet is in the description so that you can do that. Give it a go, because Riverside is absolutely fantastic. Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria is designed by Stan Kordonsky and published by Daily Magic Games. It is, as you might expect, set in the Valeria universe, where for a change we are the baddies. We are these downtrodden evil entities that have been terrorizing Valeria, that we've been working against in all of the other games, but it's time for us to try and fight back. And to do that, we are going to have to determine who is going to be our leader, and we're going to do that with a nice Euro game. So in Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria, we have these different areas of the board. On your turn, you will take a die from an area and take the action in there. The die will either improve the power of an action that you're taking, or the less powerful the die is, the more of a discount it will give you for taking the action. So if you are buying a special power card and you take a pretty low die, it will give you a really big discount instead. So the kind of trade-off of that. And you can then manipulate the dice once they're on your player board, because you will want good dice usually to carry out these fights as we go through the game. You want to perform a particular number of fights to trigger the end of the game and earn you points as you are going through as well. You want the highest strength possible for. You will need particular combinations of colours of dice. Again, there are ways you can manipulate and change the colours of dice that you have gained and flip dice over to get better results and stuff. The higher the result, the more points you will get from it, as seen in a table, up to a certain limit that can be extended by taking different bonuses. You want to try and raise that limit, get the most that you can out of this fight, but it's all a trade-off. You know, how fast are people racing through this game? Are they taking the very simple battles, and you're going for the ones that need the most dice and the most kind of precision to get the most rewards? You might not get as many done, so is it worth doing that? If everyone is kind of taking it slow, maybe you can too. There is a board after you do a battle that you place a token on that can give you points based on particular elements that were in that battle. How many red dice did you have? Take this many points. And then forming links between those tokens will give you bonuses as well. There are mini expansions included in the version that I have. I did a playthrough for the original Kickstarter edition of it, so you can see that, and largely the game is the same, just with nicer final things. It's on the shelf right there. I'm looking at it right now. I want to do a playthrough with, it's got a solo mode now as well. I want to do a playthrough with all the shiny new stuff and solo at some point. It's just a lovely implementation of dice in a game. You, of course, want the best things, but there is often, a lovely balance between wanting to take both elements of dice and then having something that you can manipulate them for later. Or maybe you're not even going to bother trying to get the best bang for your buck out of every single fight. Maybe you're just going to rush through, because getting that fight will unlock this bonus for you, and then your next one's going to be really great. It just works so beautifully well, and yeah, I've said it before in many videos, I love how these are different games and by different designers a lot of the time, but they are all tied together by the Miko's artwork, but they are all incorporated in various ways into the kind of the lore of Valeria, and I love to see it grow and expand in these various games and editions. Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria. Welcome to the Moon, designed by Benoit Turpin and Alexis Allard, and published by Blue Cocker Games. This is the third installment of Welcome to. We had Welcome to Your Perfect Neighborhood. Is the rest of it? I think it's just called Welcome to them. And Welcome to New Las Vegas, that took the kind of neighborhood building, the beautiful flip and fill elements of the original Welcome to, and kind of turned everything up. It's really complex to start with, but really, really satisfying once you get to grips with it. And then Welcome to the Moon is kind of, I love it, partly because I've been banging the drum for Welcome to since before it came out. I can be one of these Welcome to hipsters. Rach and I played this, it's in essence, I think a year or a few months at least before it came out. Absolutely loved it, and have just loved all of the different variations and the kind of big individual installments as they have come along. Welcome to the Moon kind of cranks everything up. What if instead of just one kind of game, one rule set that you are learning at a time, what if we just included 8 different ones in the game at a time, and you just pick the one that you want to play, and here are all of the different things you'll be thinking about this time. The core structure is the same, that you want ascending numbers. You can leave gaps as big as you like, but be wary, because you might have to worry about filling them in later. You might have to take penalties because you haven't left the right gaps for yourself, but it just plays with that basic formula so much. Welcome to New Las Vegas did the kind of, it's streets in Welcome to, and then in New Las Vegas it was a great big grid, and it had new abilities to kind of play with that grid system. But Welcome to the Moon, just it feels like every possible thing you could do with it across all of the different sheets. What if you just had one enormous great big snaking sheet and you had to divide it as you liked to try and fit with what you're doing? You take a number and ability every round, and the abilities, you end up learning them and they do similar things, but they will have a different effect. That some things might be more or less important depending on the board that you are playing with. The first one starts out, I would say, simpler than the original Welcome To. So kind of a really good entry point as well. But the complexity and the satisfaction and the wonder, the kind of fun that you can see that the designers were having with coming up with these spin-offs, these extra ways of thinking of this formula. It works together so beautifully. The presentation is, it's been fantastic in the previous Welcome To games, but here it is all dry erase boards. There is a campaign included in it which you can play through. There is a paragraph book to take you through the story, and it will basically guide you through your games, give you some variability in there. And I don't want to spoil anything about it, but there's going to be a lot of replayability in the way that that campaign is structured. There is a fantastic solo mode where there is, you are giving cards to a bot that will score certain amounts for the cards that you give it, but that amount is variable depending on the difficulty that you're playing, and there might be a couple of extra rules, a couple of things it wants more based on the scenario that you're playing as well. So it's doing its best to simulate playing against another player and seeing what they are going for and stuff, all while not having to do anything extra really. You're getting cards and deciding which to give to the bot and which to use for yourself. It works fantastically well. It does say that this is the third in the trilogy for Welcome To, and that this would be the end, and it would be a really great end for it as well, because this is just like so many variations and new ideas and just creative things piled onto an already fantastic core game. That it would be a fitting end, but I would still like to see more. I love Welcome To, but yes, absolutely recommend this. If you haven't played a Welcome To yet, the other two are fantastic in their ways. I've spoken about them at great length in various other videos, but Welcome to the Moon, kind of based on the way that it builds up and progresses its complexity, would be an absolutely fantastic one to start with as well. It's kind of a year of rolling rides and adventures, isn't it? But yes, Welcome to the Moon. It's incredible. Euthia, Torment of Resurrection, is an enormous box of adventure designed by Markéta Blahova and Tadeusz Spouster and published by Dia Games. Here you take on the role of a hero. There are many different ones in the game that play very, very differently. You take them on a kind of journey through progressing their character. Every character has their own unique set of skill tiles that you will level up throughout the game, or maybe not level up, maybe you'll just find things that you like more. But their characters have very different paths they can go down. They have some kind of set things that are you going to be a warrior or an explorer and all of these things, but using them in combination, using them for what's right at the time, what you want to do, what the scenario demands of you. That you can make very, very different characters every time. And on top of that, there are loads of different characters in it already. There are like 5 or 6. But yes, it's the kind of thing with the enormous box of Euthia. It is all about just kind of every possible variability and component put in there. It is a really lavish production. It's just got so much stuff in it. It is based around scenarios. You'll be playing different things every time, whether it is just a basic game of exploring and accumulating points. The gameplay very, very different, but in a similar way to how in Mage Knight you are roaming around doing these things, leaving your tokens on the board and scoring various things for them throughout the game, but also at the end based on the scenario that you were doing. That kind of vibe. There might be a great big tournament at the end of the game. The game's going to last a set number of rounds, and at the end we are going to have to fight these series of monsters, and whoever manages to do that or does it best is going to win. And the game is all about leveling up and gearing up your characters to be able to handle these really big scary monsters at the end. There are scenarios where you fight huge bosses. There is a dragon involved in fighting this, but yeah, the maps are so variable. There are so many tiles that some are scenario specific. There is a table when you set the game up that says, this many basic tiles, this many scenario tiles, this many general tiles, coupled with the way that the board has been explored and the way that these things come out. It is going to lead to a massively different experience that even if you just sat there and tried to play the same way every time, I don't know if Uthia would let you. It's just so much stuff built into this. There is gear that you can just find. There is treasure. You can get it from shops if you liberate the shops by fighting a monster first. You can equip a lot of equipment with gems that will give you extra things. Equipment might just give you more health or give you an ability to do it. It might let you do more actions. You can move around, or you can do mining. You can fight monsters. You can trade. In all of these combinations, your turns are just so interesting. You can decide to take one fewer action and have one more next round if you can't quite do what you need to this time. But having a bigger action, having a bit more movement will let you do it next time. You can do that as well. The combat works so well in this. So I'm speaking kind of not primarily, entirely from the solo stroke cooperative perspective. This is a competitive game as well. I think originally it was a competitive game, and then these new ways of playing, as well as a load more content, have been thought of for it in its re-implementation. But yeah, the competitive game, as you roam around fighting monsters, other players will kind of bid to take control of those monsters and use ability cards that they have accumulated throughout the game to play against you. They are trying to play well for the monster to give you a challenge, but also the player that kills you will get a reward for doing so, and they are holding you back in a competitive sense. So yeah, it's in their interests to try and make you lose that combat. So that is a key part of the competitive game. Rather than players just out and out going onto spaces and fighting, maybe you can do that as well. You can add that into Mage Knight, but rather than that being the focus, you are taking control of the monsters and trying to defeat your opponents that way instead. So in the cooperative stroke solo game, that's all gone, of course, but there is such a clever system of AI combat that is put in here, rather than, a lot of it is based on dice in Uthia. But there is so much that you can do with these dice. And rather than the enemy just rolling dice all the time, they have cards that you draw that say what their dice are going to be and say which tokens they are going to use. They have a cache that builds up of these ability cards. So you can see as they start to build up, the silver cards get turned into gold cards that are more powerful and more scary. And they are going to do worse things to you. And you can see, well, they've rolled this. Okay, they're going to use this thing to try and improve their roll. Are they going to play an ability card? When the ability cards come out, they can stack up and they can end up doing really powerful, scary things to you. I'm not one for the kind of fighting against other players. I'm not into that at all. But it works so well in the solo version, and I have played it once in the cooperative arena as well, and it worked fantastically there as well. There is a lot to this. This is I don't think it's really high in the weight, but it's a decently heavy game. There is a great big thick rulebook to it, but it's kind of because there is so much stuff in this that it's trying to tell you about every little thing that might happen, because you're going to need to know some of it eventually. But generally, combat has all of these steps in it, but unless you have items or abilities that concern those steps, loads of it can be skipped. And as you kind of get the structure down in your head and see what your character is doing in your first game or two, you start to see that, well, loads of the actual process of fighting these things and exploring around can be kind of skipped over until I get the thing that needs me to remember that phase comes in. As long as you do remember it when it comes around, a load of the game can get smoother and faster. It is a long game as well. Much longer than, in my experience anyway. I've still only played like 6 games at this point, I think. But yeah, the estimate of like 30-40 minutes per player. The fastest game for me has still been like 90 minutes, 2 hours. as a solo game, I am a slow player. I am thinking about a lot about what I'm doing. I'm enjoying that length of time, but it is, you know, it's a big one to set up and put away. It is a long one to play as well, but I have enjoyed massively my time once I am in the world and playing the game. Descent: Legends of the Dark is not the third edition of Descent. It's designed by Cara Sentel-Dunk and Nathan I. Hajek and published by Fantasy Flight Games, who've done all the Descents. So this is, you know, the dice rolling, dungeon crawling of Descent past, but with a much bigger emphasis on story, and also with, I think, a big refinement in the gameplay itself as well. I remember playing Descent 2nd Edition a long time ago now and being kind of frustrated and limited by it. We did play it just before we got hold of this version, and I say I liked it a lot more. But I really, really enjoy the kind of refinements, improvements that have been made in this spin-off reimagining. It's kind of the third edition, it's just very different to the second edition. So we play as these characters that have, you know, weapons, they have traits that you will build up and progress as you level up and earn these things. But you will place fatigue on them as you use their abilities, as you are told to take fatigue from various sources. But flipping the cards, which is an action that you can do on your turn, removes all the fatigue from them. So there is a lovely balance between wanting to have, you know, the right tool for the job, the weapon that the enemy is going to be weak to as you are about to fight it, but weighing up, you know, if I fill up on fatigue, I'm going to start taking it as damage, and I don't want that. And I want to be able to use the abilities on cards as well, so I want space for more fatigue to be put on them. So flipping over the cards and getting a new set of abilities, maybe going over to a different enemy now that I've got this different type of weapon out, and I've got this different ability. I've now got an ability that helps other people, so I probably want to get next to the other players so that this can be the most effective. You know, the die rolling, rather than being based on numbers and rather than having just a side of the dice that means your entire thing misses, it is all based around getting the right number of symbols. You can get symbols that activate a special ability on your character, you know, the surge, and will activate surge symbols on your cards, which, you know, is used before as well. You know, successes that will be multiplied by the damage of your weapon. Loads of different effects that you can get as you upgrade your weapons as well. You know, it sounds like a lot, but loads of that is handled by the app. It needs an app. I know that's a deal breaker for some people. You know, it's still not in many games though. You know, see these things sometimes that, oh, apps are taking over board games and it's terrible. The tiny minority have got apps. But anyway, Descent works really, really well. So before, the Descent app for 2nd edition still was great and allowed you to play the whole thing fully cooperatively. But, you know, Descent Legends from the Dark has been completely built with that in mind, rather than a thing that has been added on later and kind of everything else has been retrofitted to suit that. You know, everything has been custom built for Legends of the Dark. So it is a similar kind of app to what you have seen before if you have played, you know, Mansions of Madness, the version with the app, of, you know, dragging things from characters. But, you know, you're saying who attacks with what. You were saying, oh, I investigate that thing over there, and the app will tell you what happens. It's keeping track of the enemy's abilities. It's keeping track of the upgrades you make to your weapons as well, and, you know, generally they will happen a percentage of the time. So it's doing the kind of random roll and then applying the, oh, this gives you 10% more damage, or this applies this effect, this status to the enemy. You know, most of the time anyway. Some bugs that have probably been fixed by now. It is doing that stuff for you and taking a load of the bookkeeping out of it, which, you know, as much as I love Gloomhaven, and we did all of the bookkeeping for it, you know, the bulk of our Gloomhaven play was played purely vanilla and with tokens and everywhere. But I would say that, you know, as hardcore as we are with our tokens and stuff, as much as we enjoyed playing it like that, as soon as we started playing it with apps and things, we never went back. It's taking that kind of load off you and kind of the mistakes that you make through doing it all yourself really, really helped. So the app works beautifully. The new combat and ability system is just smoother, is just more effective, just feels better. You earn new abilities as well by performing feats, you know, kind of taking more cues from video games that, you know, here is a goal, or maybe Gloomhaven, here is a goal for, you know, maybe just while there are enemies out, to investigate things, attack two different enemies on your turn attack with this weapon a certain number of times in a turn to get progress in these feats and unlock new recipes to craft things with in town. There's crafting and all of this sort of stuff that's in there, getting materials through opening chests and searching bookcases and turning them into potions and armor and all of this stuff. You can find things as well. There is upgrades in the game. I think we have played tons of sessions of Descent. I didn't count how many we have played. I think we have about 2 left. I think we have played loads of it and still never found any kind of how you upgrade these weapons. I don't know if that's something for a later box. I don't know if we were unlucky, but yeah, I would like to know what's going on there. And there's a little thing about, if we're playing a 2-player campaign, the game has all of these different characters to choose from, and often a certain scenario will require, for story reasons, a certain character to play, which is, I'm tied to wanting to play a particular character, especially if it's a character I've painted because I want to be that character. It's cool that the game is encouraging you to diversify and see how these other characters play. And maybe you want to play this character sometimes, but those characters get no progress when they are not being played, and particularly in the 2-player game, that means that loads of characters are very basic in terms of their abilities and things. They will gain some throughout the course of the game, but loads of things are locked behind those traits that I think, at lower play counts, it could do with gaining some progress on things when you are not playing the characters. And some things with the weapon upgrades, it would be nice if you had some kind of physical representation, even if they were just mini cards and things to remind you of the extra things that your weapons do, because you have to check in the app all the time, and it can, there can be a bit of bookkeeping to do with that, flicking through different screens that, okay, do I want to buy this thing? What have I got equipped on my weapon now? Press. Oh yeah, press. Okay, what does it cost to buy? Oh, I'm going to have to buy a material. Can I buy that material? Yeah, there's sometimes a lot of admin involved in a thing that is meant to be removing all of the admin. But I haven't got to another great thing as well. I'm moaning about things and haven't got to another great thing. The 3D terrain. I will admit that seemed like a kind of cool thing, but I don't really mind. I'm fine with 2D terrain. What's wrong with just chits and stuff? Why do we need all of this stuff? As soon as it's a big build, but as soon as it is out on the table and you see the vastness of some of these dungeons and the 3D element of all of these things, the different floors, the going up towers and all of these different things that are incorporated a lot of the time into the story of the scenario that you are playing, it just looks beautiful and really adds to the immersion. Like, I wasn't expecting any of that, but yeah, it works really, really well. Massive price tag, but yeah, that's all horses for courses, isn't it? I think I've really, really enjoyed it. So towards the end, I'll admit that I in particular have kind of tailed off. I think I have a lot of games, and you saw the list of games that I haven't played enough yet at the start of this. There's a lot of kind of shiny things attracting my attention. I think that, and maybe playing a lot in a short space of time. I don't think it's anything that Descent did, but yeah, I love what they have done with this. From someone as well that's not a particular fan of just roll to resolve stuff, I think that Legends of the Dark in particular does a lot to make that more interesting and give you a bit more choice. But yeah, just in general, I love how this works, and I would love to see more in this vein, which, it's Fantasy Flight. I'm sure we will. Descent Legends of the Dark. Sleeping Gods is an enormous board game. Maybe not box size wise. It's a hefty box, but maybe in the breadth of your gameplay. It's designed by Ryan Lockhart and published by Red Raven Games. Don't forget to say that with the rambling. It is a game that you kind of play in bits. There is no kind of, we're going to play Adventure X today and we're going to go off on this. It is a great big sprawling open world. There is, you are a boat on a map. Do what you want. Go where you want. Investigate these things. Find out what you need to do. Here is a vague description of the situation you find yourselves in and kind of what you might need to do. Here are some starting quests that give you hints of where you might find these things. There is a lot of looking on the map and thinking of where we might need to go to solve these things. It is a lovely interconnected nest of these quests. So much stuff that even through a massive playthrough, the box, I think it's like 20 hours. around for a playthrough. We have done a complete playthrough of it, and I did several hours of video playthroughs on the channel as well. I'm talking about our private one. We did a complete 4-player campaign of it, and there is so much. I would say, like, what did we see? A quarter maybe of the things in the game. You know, a lot of it is you don't want to go to certain areas too soon because it's going to be too difficult for you. But yeah, it's just making choices, and once you go to a particular area and find all of these things, it kind of sends you off, and you haven't seen all of these other things in that area, so you can see from, you know, your finished map, you can see what you didn't see and want to go and investigate that in a future playthrough. There are things that you find again, don't want to spoil any specific things about it, but there are things that you find that you will be able to see at the end of a game what you found, and okay, then I want to find the rest of these things that are on these lists through future playthroughs. Things will be unlocked, things will progress. There is a lot in this box, while it is not, you know, the great big treasure chest that maybe something like Youthia and Role Player and those kind of things are, Role Player Adventures, I mean. There is so much stuff packed into the very hefty storybook, and all of these locations on maps. It handles, similar to other games, similar to Role Player Adventures, it handles you having done things before, you having seen things with keywords that are tied to cards that give you new quests, but also that just kind of reference things that you've done. And often you will be asked, do you have this keyword? And as you progress through the game later on, you will end up with tons of these things, and you need a little bit of searching, as well as loads and loads of abilities and stuff. But it's cool as well that you started off really weak with only a few things to choose from, and you had to, you know, explore and be a bit more cautious, and then by the end you have all of this stuff and you feel a lot more comfortable, you know what you're good at, a lot more powerful. There is combat in the game. Combat is this lovely puzzle. There's luck involved, there's pushing your luck with drawing cards from a deck and hoping for certain numbers, but you can commit different numbers of characters to these tests to try and make you more successful at them. But combat is on, you know, grids. Enemies have these grids of certain places that you attack them, and you can kind of overspill damage. So attack a really weak enemy and overspill some of that damage on a really hard to hit enemy, and cover up certain spaces that are going to make nasty things happen to you, or going to make you take more damage back when they counterattack. The combat is a really nice system, but it's just generally that you are dipping in however long you want to play. Basically, you can save the game and stop at any time. It is, so much of it is just completely up to you. There is an expansion, Tides of Ruin, that adds a new kind of a mini map book and another book of adventures to go on. Even if you just had that base game, there is so much in there. There is so much to explore, so much to find. And even if you overlapped some stuff, I'm sure that in certain locations you would find new things based on having different keywords and having made different choices at various points in the game. It was engaging and interesting and fun all the way through, and I'm keen to keep delving back and finding out more at some point in the future, whenever time exists, to go back and play it. It looks beautiful. Well, you can see in pictures, so hopefully there's some kind of video of it playing somewhere behind me. But yeah, it's the presentation is absolutely gorgeous as well, and yeah, adds to feeling part of this world and wanting to find out more about this strange place that you find yourself in, and maybe how to get out of it. But yeah, it just works fantastically well. Sleeping Gods. So there we go, 10 absolutely fantastic games that I can't wait to play again, and hopefully you can watch the playthroughs for most of them, and maybe other ones will be coming at some point in the future as well. Thank you so much for joining me for any of the videos throughout this year. If you're a newcomer as well, if this is the first one that you've seen, I hope you like my way of talking or taste in games and stuff. Watch the playthroughs though, they're the main thing that I make. Hopefully you'll enjoy them. But thank you very much everyone for joining me and sharing the things and subscribing and following on various platforms and stuff. Thank you very much for doing it. And to everyone that supports me on Patreon, patreon.com/slickerdrips. If you would like to join up, think of it as a kind of Christmas present, or there's a Ko-fi link in the description as well. Thank you to everyone that has helped in that way as well, because it is the Patreon, it's your support that has enabled any of the last year of playthroughs, and there have been quite a few, to happen. And yeah, I would like things to be bigger and better and more plentiful, and have more time to make things in the new year. So yes, if you fancy helping me out, every little helps. Yeah, supporting me in the below links on the Patreon would be massively, massively appreciated. Thank you for joining me in whatever way you have joined me, though. I will be back at some point soon for more games, maybe more top 10. We'll do the rest of the 10 that I cut out of this one. But for now, thank you very much. Have a lovely holiday period, everyone, whatever you're doing, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye.